Thank you for listening to the 39th Street Church of Christ Daily Devotional. The devotional today is Joseph Had Great Breaks. Our mind. Today I had the opportunity to be out working in my garage and doing some work on brakes for my grandson. And as I was doing that, I was thinking about it. Somebody asked me, said, "Why are you doing that?" And I said, "Well, my grandson, I want to make sure that he's able to stop. If there's danger out there, I want him to be able to stop that truck." And I got to thinking about that and how in the life that we live here, there's so many dangers in front of us. 1 Peter 5:8, the devil is a roaring lion. He goeth about seeking to devour us. And James talks about, that we're all tempted. But if we allow that lust to conceive, then sin comes forth. We realize that sin, the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life, it comes before us all. But we have to make sure that just as on that truck I was working on, that you have to have the brakes working. You have to stop. Well, spiritually, we have to make sure that our brakes are working too. And I thought of one occasion, Joseph. Joseph was a young man, and he was in Potiphar's home. And there, Potiphar's wife tempted him, said, "Come, lay with me." And I want to tell you, let me read to you Joseph's response. Here in Genesis, the 39th chapter, it says in verse 8, says, "He refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master knoweth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all he hath into mine hand. There is none greater in the house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Now you think about Joseph and how he stood up to that, and you realize then he had great breaks. Here was a temptation before him, and it stopped. Well, how was that? Well, for one thing, he knew what was right and what was wrong. You've got to study, you've got to give diligence to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing word of truth, 2 Timothy 2 and verse 15. In other words, I need to be able to look and see what is right and wrong. I prove all things. I hold fast to that which is good. And so Joseph knew what wickedness was. We live in a world where many people would look and say, nothing wrong with that. Joseph stood out in that day and will stand out in this day using the brakes of knowing right and wrong, looking to his word. But then beyond that, Jesus was asked once, what's the greatest commandment? And his answer was, the first and greatest commandment is love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. The second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. In that response that Joseph gave, did you notice that? First of all, he said, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? That's the greatest joy we have, is to love God and do what he says. We don't want to disappoint him. We don't want to sin against him. But he also said, how can I do this to my master? This master has entreated me. He loved his master, this one who had trusted him in so many ways. And then he said, how can I? He was the one who would be doing the great wickedness. And so he had a love for God, a love for self, a love for others. And he guided that love not by just pure emotion, not by lust, desire, but by knowing what is right, what is wrong, and what it is that God has given. So I hope today, every one of us, like I said, 1 Peter 5 and verse 8, devil's there. And he wants us to not have good breaks. Danger is there, and he wants us to just run headlong into it. God says, I've given you the ability to have good breaks. So look at Joseph. Know right and wrong, love God, love others just as you love yourself. You go through the world, I go through the world that way, and we realize what a blessing it is to be able to stop. The world doesn't understand it, but God appreciates it, and we're showing great love when we do it. So I ask you, Joseph had great breaks. How are mine? How are yours? Let's get them, keep them repaired, and use them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this short devotional. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of other devotionals that will be forthcoming. Also, we encourage you to join us online live as we stream our services at each service time. More information can be found on our website at the link below. Thank you.